US President Donald Trump plans to welcome Russian President Vladimir Putin in Washington this fall for the second meet after Helsinki summit. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said in a statement that National Security Advisor John Bolton has been directed to issue the invitation to Trump's Russian counterpart, Putin. Trump has vowed that if his dealings with Russian leader Vladimir Putin don't work out, then he will be the worst enemy Putin has ever had. Trump's statement comes days after facing public outcry over his remarks during Helsinki summit on Russia meddling in 2016 presidential elections. Trump has rejected a proposal made by Putin that Russia be allowed to question US citizens. The White House earlier said it would consider it, but now says Trump disagrees with the suggestion. The offer was made at a summit of the two leaders. In return, Putin suggested he might allow access to 12 Russians indicted by the US. The Russian president has targeted Trump's opponents for undermining the success of his first summit. Putin said Trump's opponents are sacrificing Russian-US relations for ambitions in the course of an internal political battle in the United States. Putin warned of the dangers of Moscow and Washington failing to continue to mend ties. A coroner has opened an inquest into the poisoning death of a British woman who was exposed to the nerve agent Novichok. Dawn Sturgis died on July 8th, just over a week after she was exposed to Novichok in southwestern England. It is a few miles from where Russian double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were attacked with the same poison. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order at the White House on job training. President Donald Trump says nearly 24 companies and trade organizations are signing his pledge to provide job training and apprenticeship programs as a way to boost the US economy. The head of Peru's National Council of Magistrates has stepped down along with two others on the 7-member panel amidst calls for their resignations as an influence peddling scandal continues to shake the country's justice system. Orlando Velasquez has denied any wrongdoing and said he and others had been unfairly criticized. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Abu Dhabi for a state visit to the UAE. It's the first by a Chinese head of state in 29 years to the Arab state. Xi's plane was escorted by the UAE fighter jets when it entered the country's airspace. The UAE's vice president hosted a welcome ceremony for the Chinese president at the airport. Berlin authorities have seized 77 properties in a potentially wide-reaching money laundering case. The probe stems from an investigation in 2014 of a bank robbery in the German capital. The properties, which are worth an estimated $11.6 million, have been confiscated due to a law introduced last year that allows authorities to seize property bought through suspected money laundering. European Union Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmström has said that US measures on steel and aluminium would not solve the overcapacity problem in China. She also stated that illegal action would not work to solve issues in international trade. The Swedish commissioner also warned the unilateral introduction of tariffs by the US might end up breaking the multilateral system. Days ahead of the G20 summit in Argentina, the country's largest workers' union, the General Confederation of Workers, has rejected the visit of International Monetary Fund. This even as the country seeks to strengthen its finances through a $50 billion financing agreement with the IMF to turn around a primary fiscal deficit. Indian government led by Narendra Modi is facing its first no-confidence motion. It was moved by the Telugu Desam party and backed by the Congress. Discussion and voting on no-trust motion is scheduled for today and is a big test for Modi government. Congress President Rahul Gandhi will be participating in this discussion. India has called for a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region that should allow use of common spaces on sea and in the air. Addressing the 10th edition of the Delhi Dialogue, Indian External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj said, and I quote, "India's interest in Indo-Pacific is vast. Indo-Pacific must be free, open and inclusive order. It should follow rules-based order." India continues to engage with China on a number of fronts, including New Delhi's bid for nuclear suppliers group membership. In a written reply to the Upper House Parliament, Minister of State for External Affairs V.K. Singh has said, "Government is engaged with all NSG members, including China, at the appropriate levels for a decision on India's application for membership of the group." The most recent talks were held in Beijing on April 10, 2018. The Central Bureau of Investigation has filed a charge sheet against Congress leader P. Chidambaram and his son Karti in the Aircel Maxis deal case. The charge sheet was filed for the alleged offences of criminal conspiracy under the Indian Penal Code. If convicted, the offences entail a maximum punishment of 7 years. The special bench of the Indian Top Court, headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra, will hear the contentious Babri Masjid Ram Temple land dispute case today. In the last hearing, Uttar Pradesh Shia Waqf Board Chairman Wasim Rizvi had said that there was never a masjid on the site in Ayodhya and there can never be a masjid. After triple talaq, another landmark hearing and polygamy is all set to start in Indian Top Court from today. The bench has asked additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the centre, to file the government's response to the petition. Countering perception that the population of Hindus in Bangladesh was declining, the Indian government has stated that it has instead risen by 2% in 2017. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj said that the government has from time to time raised the issue of the plight of minorities in Pakistan, Bangladesh and other countries at the bilateral level. As many as 95 lakh vehicles are likely to go off-roads in India in the indefinite nationwide strike called by transporters today. A strike has been called by the All India Motor Transport Congress, insisting reduction in diesel prices and implementation of several long-pending demands, such as reducing third-party insurance premium and making them transparent. Two pro-government villages in northwestern Syria have been evacuated in an agreement between the Damascus government and insurgents who had laid siege to them for several years. In exchange, the government was due to release hundreds of prisoners from its jails. Reportedly, at least 20 buses carrying rebels released from jail had crossed into rebel-held territory under the agreement. Explosions and billowing smoke could be seen on Thursday from the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights as President Bashar al-Assad was set to recover control of the Syrian frontier. It is Assad's major victory over rebels who have agreed to surrender terms. Government forces have swept through southern western Syria in the last month, forcing surrender on massively outgunned rebels. A video has been uploaded on social media that shows airstrikes targeted the southwest Syrian town of Julan in the early hours of Wednesday morning. In the same night, there were also intensive aerial strikes on southwestern Nava from the Syrian army, with reports of dozens of civilian casualties. A steam pipe explosion has occurred in New York City, spewing thick smoke high above Manhattan. Teams of firefighters and police officers responded to the explosion. Officials reported no injuries or evacuations, but said they were carefully monitoring the situation. The cause of the explosion is under investigation. Scientists in Crimea are poring over a mass of preserved animal bones dating back 500,000 years. This after workmen discovered a sprawling underground cave during the construction of a motorway. Work on the road has been temporarily halted as the scientists study the content of the cave, which include the bones of rhinos, elephant-like creatures and hyenas. A drone has captured visuals of wildfires stretching through a forest in Sweden. The fires that are caused by hot weather and persistent drought have raged for days and show little signs of stopping. Italian planes are being flown to Sweden as the country seeks help in fighting ongoing wildfires. Smoke is blanketing British Columbia's Okanagan Valley as several fires continue to burn out of control in the region. Wildfires are jamming traffic on the main highway. Dozens of homes have been evacuated. Wildfires across BC are being caused by rising heat waves as well as windy and dry weather, bringing the total number of fires in the region to 71. A jacket with fans, road coating that cools down the heat and factory mist sprays were all on offer at a Japanese trade fair. The nation struggles with a record heat wave. 10 more people have died from a heat wave that continued to grip Japan, raising the death toll to more than 30 since July 9th. The public has been warned to brace for more scorching weather over coming days. A 5.7 magnitude earthquake was felt in Mexico City on Thursday morning. Buildings shook mildly and some residents evacuated homes and office buildings. There were no immediate reports of injuries or damages. The epicenter of the quake was near the town of Huahuapan in southern Oaxaca state. Kazakh figure skater Deniston, who won bronze at the Sochi Olympics in 2014, passed away at the age of 25 after being stabbed. Den died in hospital after medics fought to save his life following the attack, in which he lost 3 liters of blood. He was reportedly stabbed in the right thigh. City police said that he was stabbed by 2 unidentified attackers who were trying to steal mirrors from his car. A Turkish politician who refused to shave his beard for 2 years in a bid to protest the state of emergency came clean after the emergency rule expired. For former main opposition Republican People's Party lawmaker Aytug Atici had his beard shaven at Parliament's barber shop to celebrate the end of emergency rule. A solar plane with a wingspan of 35 meters is under development by BAE Systems and UK technology firm Prismatic. BAE Systems hopes to deploy the Phase 35 into the stratosphere. This is the Quarter-C's prototype, the Faza 8, which was successfully tested last year by developers Prismatic. Partnering with BAE Systems this year, Prismatic is now developing the full-size version. Let's take a look at the latest stories from the world of sport. We start with the news on the 2018 Asian Games that take place in Indonesia next month. The torch for the 18th edition of the Games arrived at the Yogyakarta on Tuesday. The flame will travel across 54 cities before reaching the Indonesian capital of Jakarta, where the opening ceremony of the Games will be held on August 18th. The first leg of the torch relay began on Thursday, with Solo being its next destination. The International Olympic Committee have approved the addition of 7 new events for the 2022 Winter Olympics, which will take place in Beijing. The IOC, in a statement while revealing the Executive Board's decision, stated that the Beijing Winter Games will see the rise of female representation from 41% in Pyeongchang to 45.44%. motorsport, reigning Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton has agreed a new 2-year contract with Mercedes in a deal that could potentially be worth $18 million. The 33-year-old Briton said that the signing was a mere formality since discussions with Mercedes boss Toto Wolff began last winter. Former Chelsea star Gianfranco Zola has returned to the club as an assistant to newly appointed manager Maurizio Sarri. During his 7-year stint with the Blues, Zola won the 2 FA Cups, 1 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup and the League Cup. Zola has previously been on managerial assignments with West Ham United, Watford and was last in charge at Birmingham City last year.